Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 million by 1 million strategy roundtable for entrepreneurs. 1M by 1M, as you know, is the first and only global virtual accelerator for technology startups. We run it out of Silicon Valley, but with a global footprint. And our mission is to help 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue. In support of the mission, we've been doing these free mentoring roundtables for years. We started with an experiment back in 2008, in September 2008, and then we've done it, almost every week through the years, and this is the 498th session. So a big milestone coming up, 500th roundtable. We have had over 150,000 people participate in these. And it is literally a global event. We see people coming from all over the place. And over the years, places where earlier on there wasn't as much activity have also picked up, like, Africa has picked up and so on and so forth. It's very interesting. This event is being recorded. Every single recording of our roundtables are available on our YouTube channel, 1M1M Roundtables. And on Twitter, we're at 1M by 1M and at Shripriya. We publish a lot of interesting content. And hashtag 1M1M is our hashtag for today. These are the instructions to dial in if you decide to dial in. This is a roundtable, not a broadcast, so we encourage you very much to participate as much as you would like to. Right now, we have a bit of scheduled programming, but then I will open the lineup, and you're most welcome to come into the call. We are going to start today's session with a conversation with Shripriya Mahesh, founding partner at Spero Ventures. Shri, welcome to the show. She's on mute.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you so much, Shripriya. I'm excited to be here.
Great. Well, let's get you acquainted with our audience. Tell us a little bit about your background and also about Spero Ventures.
So I grew up in India, and I came to the U.S. in 1995 and to Silicon Valley in early 99. And I've been in Silicon Valley since then, primarily in operating roles, in product and product marketing. I ran global product for eBay for a number of years. And then before coming back to my next kind of stint with tech, I went to graduate film school at NYU, which was just an exciting and very intense period of my life. It was great for a lot of hours. And then I came back to tech when I helped Pierre and Midyar launch First Look Media. And I've been institutionally investing since 2015. I started at a Midyar network, and in 2018, we spun out Spero Ventures as a single LP, $100 million fund to invest in mission-driven entrepreneurs.
Fantastic. So let's learn a little bit about what you identify as your investment thesis within the mission-driven entrepreneur space.
Yeah, so the way we think about the world is that, so what we say is we invest in the things that make life worth living. It covers well-being, work and purpose, and human connection. And the fundamental underlying thesis is that the greatest companies of our generation will both return fantastic financial returns, as well as have a very positive impact on the world. We do not think the two are separate. In fact, if you go back and look at companies like eBay or Tesla or even WhatsApp, they fundamentally democratized access and put agency in the hands of people. And so we think those are the kinds of companies that will have a massive impact on the world. And we could have had any thesis, and we picked this because we think it's a really important one.
And what stage do you invest in?
Yeah, so we primarily invest in the earlier stages. As you know, Shramana, over the past 4 years, what a Series A has just changed dramatically, right? A Series A used to be 4 to 5 million. Now it's, I don't know, is it 10 million? Is it 15 million? We have no idea, right? So what we say is we invest post product market fit, and we invest $2 to $3 million. We lead, we price, we take board seats. We have a very concentrated strategy. So we will invest in about 20 companies out of a $100 million fund. So we spend a lot of time with each of our companies, and we reserve a lot of dollars for each of our companies, and we engage very deeply with them.
Now, what does a company need to have? Product market fit, yes. Do they also need to already have revenue before you're willing to write that $2 to $3 million check?
So it depends if product market fit in that industry or for that company means revenue. Often it does, right? So if it does, yes, they should, because revenue is a fantastic proxy for product market fit.
Yes.
In a business model where they're not generating revenue, primarily in a very consumerish scale-based business, then we will use other proxies. But yes, revenue is very important for product market fit.
Now, what about geography? Where do you like to invest?
So, Omidyar Network is global, but Spero Ventures, because we're a small team, we're very early, we focus on North America, partly because, we spend a lot of time with our entrepreneurs, and pre-COVID, at least, we would be with them in person. Now, post-COVID, we're on the phone, so you could say, hey, could it be anywhere? But, there's a benefit to knowing the market, to knowing, to having connections to help the companies, to being able to help them to hire, and all of our networks are in the US because it's where all of us have worked. So we primarily focus on North America.
Okay. Let's talk about some of the companies you've invested in, and in particular, as you describe the stories, talk about when they came to you or how did you find them, and what is it about them that when you met them convinced you to write these checks?
Yeah, so, venture, as you know, is about exceptions. So I'm going to tell you about both Series A companies, but also companies that have fallen outside of those bounds. And so I'll start with Skillshare. Skillshare raised at the time when we invested 4 years ago what would now be a Series A. Back then it was called a Series B. They did have product market fit. Skillshare is a learning platform that allows any creator to learn anything that will help them either with their career or in their lives. And it's a marketplace where anyone can teach and anyone can learn. And unlike many marketplaces, it's a subscription model. So you can subscribe either annually or monthly. And it's, you can listen to and watch as many classes as you want. So, I've taken classes in languages, I've taken classes in the arts, I've watched Matt Cooper, who's now the CEO, his class on accounting, so I wanted to watch Matt. So it's really anything to help a creator learn and expand their toolkit. When Skillshare came to us, they already had $5 million in revenue. And in a very competitive market, they had raised less money than all of their peers in order to get to as much or more traction than any of them. And what we really liked about Skillshare, so, given my eBay background, I loved the marketplace model. I think trying to predict what people want to learn about is a very hard business. But allowing people to determine, like the millions of users and customers that they have, allowing those people to determine what they want to teach and what they want to learn, much better. We also loved the subscription model instead of a per class model because, there are models where you pay hundreds of dollars for a class. You may never finish it because, 2 classes in, 2 videos in, you may realize, oh, it's actually not what I want to learn. I want to learn something else. And, bringing that freedom and that joy and that lightness of experimentation to adults is what Skillshare did. So we loved the business model of how they were thinking about it. And we love the team. When they raised Michael Carn, Jennifer Korn, who was the founder, was the CEO. We really loved what Michael had built and their vision, and we thought there was great founder market fit. So, those are some of the reasons that we invested in Skillshare. And, Skillshare in the past 4 years since we invested has 10x'd their revenue, they have 10x'd their users. They've just grown amazingly fast. And Matt Cooper, who joined as COO and then became CEO when Michael decided to start another company, he started a company called Otis. Matt has done a fantastic job. So, it's been, and it's not like, when you look back 4 years in, it seems like everything is up and to the right. It actually wasn't, right? Because no company is really up and to the right. In the day-to-day, it's always a roller coaster. And Skillshare had its roller coaster moments, but it's all about how the team deals with those roller coaster moments. And the team dealt with it really well. So that's one example.
Shri, before you go on to the next one, I have one question, and this is trying to draw some lessons from the marketplace model, the modern marketplace model. We are seeing a lot of subscription marketplaces. So could you elaborate a little bit on the business model? Is it subscription on both sides, subscription on one side? What are you seeing, and what is your analysis of the evolution of the marketplace model?
Yeah, thanks, Shramana. Skillshare happens to be a marketplace on one side, which is on the viewer or the learner or the creator learner side. The teachers come in and can create as many or as few classes as they want. Very flexible around that. I think marketplaces are, they hold a special place in my heart because I just think they're such an efficient market clearing mechanism, right? Like it just sets the market price. Like, what are you willing to pay? And I think we are seeing it in more and more spaces. It's a very hard model to get off the ground because getting started is the hardest part in a marketplace. But once you get to a certain amount of scale, there's network effects that go with it, right? Because every new viewer makes the marketplace more valuable to a teacher, and every new teacher makes the marketplace more valuable to the viewer. And when each new class makes it more valuable for the viewer, it then makes it valuable for all the other teachers. So the network effects model is it's a fantastic upward trajectory, right? It keeps reinforcing itself. I've seen many takes on it, but not that many have been successful, right? In crowded markets, I have seen models where they plateau. Because one of the things with marketplaces is your conversion still has to be high. That's truly when you can get to network effects. Like if you put new inventory on, does the conversion keep up, or does the conversion drop dramatically, which means then your demand side isn't actually scaling with your supply side. So I think there's so many nuances to marketplaces. There's so much innovation that I hope to see entrepreneurs make. But I think it's a tough model to start with. But if you're able to, step scale both sides, so one increases and the next one catches up, and it increases and catches up, it's a great model to use as a business model.
Absolutely. All right. Do you want to do another one?
Sure. Another one that I'll talk about is a company called Core. Core is a meditation company, and we invested in Core at their seed, which was, of course, not their A, and they hadn't launched, so it was pre-product market fit. We'd looked at the meditation space for a while, and it's a space we cared about deeply. I had dealt with an illness in 2017, 2018, and my doctors had recommended meditation. So I had tried literally every app available. And what I found was, they were good, but they were very fungible in the sense that, moving from one app to the other, what you got was, different sets of accents, different sets of teachers, but the experience was fundamentally the same, right? Mm-hmm. And despite them being very successful, and I hope they continue to be very successful, our question as investors was, what does that mean for us from a moat? Like, can someone pull away? Can someone? Barrier. Yeah. What's the barrier to leave, right? As we know now, switching apps is easy. And interestingly, Core actually had a hardware device, and I'm actually going to bring it to you so that you guys can see it. Um, it was beautifully designed, even when we met them, and this is the device. And it has, so, most people, most investors, us included, think hardware is really hard. And it is. It's harder than software alone, right? But when we looked at this device, it does two things. One, you hold it in your hands, just like this, and it tracks your heart rate and your HRV while you meditate, which is great data. It also tracks your minutes of calm and your minutes of focus, and it's blindingly accurate. And finally, it vibrates, right? So when you're doing breath training, it vibrates to, like if you're doing a box breath training, 4 in, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, hold for 4. It vibrates with that so that you don't even have to think about it. It does your counting, it does your vibration, and it guides you. And for a lot of people, the hardest part is a point of focus, right? Because meditation has become very hot, but most people will feel, oh my God, I'm really bad at it. And we know that there's no such thing as being bad at meditation, but the reason people think they're bad is it's hard to focus your mind, right? And so Core provides a point of focus with a vibration, and it also gives you data on how you're improving. So I felt here was something that was using technology to bring meditation into, the modern age. And we thought the hardware could be a moat. And so they've since launched their average meditations per week and per month are 5x their competitors. So, it was also a fantastic team. Loved the CEO, Sarah McDevitt, who started the company because she had anxiety, as a massive anxiety attack, as she was leaving Microsoft to come to Stanford's graduate program in both design and education. And, so we invested before they'd launched, and they've just had a phenomenal launch, but have a long way to go, right? They're a startup. And so that's an example where we said, very much in our thesis, has the ability to break the mold, and, we believe that this team can kind of weather the roller coaster.
Shri, what is the price point of this one?
So Core has tried multiple price points since they launched earlier this year, but right now you can get the device and the subscription for $15 a month.
I see. Okay. Very good. Do you want to do another one?
Sure. And then the final one that I'll do is a company called Mati, M-A-T-I, and we invested in them. It's one of our more recent ones earlier this year. And what they do is they allow identity verification and all that comes with it, both in the US and outside. And what we saw there, Philippe is the founder, and Philippe has been an immigrant for a long part of his life. So he grew up in Europe, but became an immigrant to go learn in the UK when he was a child. He just wandered off to the UK and told his parents he's not coming back because he wanted to study. And then he moved to the US and came to college here in the US. And, he's dealt with being an immigrant. And as some of us who've come here as immigrants know, you have to establish a credit record. You have to establish, your identity. There's a lot you have to do before you can be a fully functioning human being in society. And Philippe is now enabling identity verification in the developing world, right, or in the rest of the world. So they started in LATAM, in Mexico and LATAM, and there are lots of countries where data is buried in inaccessible databases or in paper records, and they are both digitizing that and enabling both verification and transactions based on that verification to give people agency. So we invested in, this was a bet that identity verification was going to be hugely important in the years to come, as well as in the founder, who is an incredibly impressive founder. And this is a company that has just grown like a weed since we met him. We encouraged Philippe to move to ARR model versus just a single time revenue model. Think through how do you charge people? How do you encourage the people who want to grow with you to come back? Finding real product market fit with, you already had signs of product market fit, but really making that concrete. So that's another one that fits into our thesis that we recently invested in.
Okay, great. So my next question is a trend question. Each investor looks at the world with a certain lens, a certain investment thesis, and you have your own, and you have projected to the world that this is your investment thesis and this is the kind of deals that you want to see. So within your deal flow, what trends are you seeing? What trends were you seeing before COVID, and how has that shifted or morphed, evolved in the COVID era?
So, we believe deeply in community. We think that building community authentically, and we developed a thesis called product-led communities, where communities form around solving hard problems, whether it's meditation or learning. If you have a community with you, it really helps you build a moat, and it really helps your customers achieve their goals. So we're seeing a lot more companies emerge in the community space, and we think that's super interesting. We saw it before COVID. We've seen them accelerate since COVID, right? Because that's something, when you're especially doing that offline, that you can do regardless of where you are. The other trend that we'd seen even before COVID was, it was pretty heated. Like the valuation markets were pretty heated. And, we really thought about what would happen when COVID hit. We wrote a thoughtful, letter to our LPs, and we were completely wrong. We thought prices would come down, people would batten down the hatches and, plan for the long term. For certain markets, the prices have gone crazy. The multiples are literally like 50, 100x, 200x in certain places. And, I think that's hard for investors, sure, but it's much harder for entrepreneurs. Because if you raise at that valuation, what's really going to happen at the next round? There's going to be a reckoning either in the next round or the round after. And now I hear some entrepreneurs say, we're not going to have to raise again. Is that really true, right? If you pull in your plans from 24 months to 12 months, is that really true that you don't have to raise again? And I feel I worry for first-time entrepreneurs who haven't seen the cycle, who will get burned by this. Our philosophy is just bite-sized chunks, take as much capital as you need for the next 24 months, hit all your metrics, take another bite, 24 months, slow and steady, and I really have a lot of worries for, multi-million-dollar rounds when a company has no revenue and maybe hasn't even found product market fit, but it's hot. I don't blame the entrepreneurs at all, right? Like, hey, if money is being thrown at you, it's very hard to resist. But I think it's a VC's job to be responsible, and I don't necessarily think we're doing the right thing by many of these entrepreneurs. Of course, we should give them money. Of course, we should support them. But this momentum investing has gone to a fevered pitch, and it's a really hard. It's an amazing and difficult world to navigate right now.
Yeah, we have a series that we do on our blog called Death by Overfunding, and we have case study after case study of companies that had no business going out of business, but went out of business for absolutely the wrong reasons. I mean, one of my, I wouldn't say favorite case studies, one of the saddest case studies is this story of Nasty Gal, this eBay seller who did phenomenally well, Sophia Amoroso, and then raised a lot of money and then started just doing stuff that did not scale, did not stick, and went out of business. And that company was so well put together to begin with, it hardly needed any money. It was actually doing fine as a bootstrap company.
Yeah, I saw that she recently left the organization as well. It's really sad when that happens. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Now, Any predictions or any, you know, notes from the COVID times that you want to convey to entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I'm out of the prediction market after my prediction on prices was just so spectacularly wrong. But what I'd say is, what I've seen from entrepreneurs who have navigated this time well is that they're just super realistic. So I have seen I've seen the spectrum of reactions to COVID, and I think the entrepreneurs who just said, okay, this is what's happening. What do we have to do to get to the other side? Just be really realistic. Make cuts, make them once, make them deep. Very hard to do, right? Because your team has been with you through the roller coaster. But the entity that's often not represented is the company, and you have to put the entity that has to be the primary concern, right? How does this entity get to the other side? And really have adapted their models for an online long distance world. I do think we're in this world at least till the same time next year, right? Hopefully we'll have a vaccine, but with very poor federal level management or guidance, I don't see how the U.S. Snaps out of this and returns to normalcy anytime soon. And so we are certainly telling our entrepreneurs to prepare for the long term. And though, it's very hard shutting down a business line or refocusing when you've spent 5 years every single day focused on it. It's much easier for us. Okay, we have a portfolio. Our entrepreneurs have it way harder, and I recognize that. But putting those feelings aside for a moment and just thinking very rationally on what do I need to do to get to a year from now, those entrepreneurs have been much more successful at making the hard decisions and kind of embracing this is where we are. Let's look for the opportunities in this world, right? And some of them have created new lines of business. So I really encourage you to, encourage all the entrepreneurs who may be listening to really embrace the reality and move forward with this is what we have to deal with, right? That entrepreneurs have overcome so much, and it's hard to be an entrepreneur at any time, but COVID is just a tremendous challenge. But if anyone can do it, people who started companies can. And so I'd encourage them to really look at it very clear-eyed and make the decisions they have to make.
Yeah. I think there is still another 18 months of really difficult times ahead, at least.
Yeah.
So yes, absolutely. We have to be realistic. We have to survive before we can get to the next level.
Yeah.
Very good, Shri. Wonderful chatting with you on what you're up to, what Spero Ventures is doing. Shall we listen to a pitch?
Yes, I would love that. And thank you so much, Shramna, for having me on.
Pleasure, absolutely. So folks, I want to set some expectations for those of you who will pitch today as well as in upcoming sessions. Remember, this is a safe working session. You don't need to be nervous, defensive, nothing. It's just, it's just a chat. We're on your side. So don't be on your guard. It's not necessary. We are not attacking you in any way whatsoever. If you disagree with what you hear today, that's okay too. It's your venture. You are going to decide how you want to play your cards. Just remember one thing, not all businesses can raise money. Not all businesses should raise money. And raising money doesn't necessarily guarantee success. We just talked about this Death by Overfunding series. If you have any doubts, go read that series on our blog. There are very unfortunate cases of highly overfunded companies that have basically imploded, and that's really sad to watch. We're going to start with Anuj Jain from New Delhi, India. Anuj, please unmute your line and tell us what is going on.
Good morning, ladies. This is Anuj. I'm the founder of Wander Womaniya. So while it's actually a pleasure to introduce Wander Womaniya in front of three ladies. So it's actually a pleasure. It's actually targeted possibly at you, So right. Okay. So what we are doing is exactly, we are promoting solo travel, and we are ensuring safety and security for women. So while because you're in US, I understand that you totally understand that how many more and more women actually are taking up solo travel every year or so. But again, India and Middle East, I think these are the markets which nearly haven't really catched up. Australia obviously has been on the charts. So I think let's move to the next slide. I'll take it ahead. All right. So focusing on what the problem is, the number one problem, be it India, be it any country, even for that matter, US. I think safety and security still remains, quite a respectable challenge. So yeah, that's obviously there. Apart from that, planning and booking is very time consuming, and if you want to travel solo, it's very costly as well because most of the rooms are double occupancy by default. So that's again a challenge. The join-in tours, which are co-ed, either they need two people, a couple, for example, or it's a very funny ratio wherein they could be 7 to 1. It's actually not a random number. We have researched it, and that's why we have come to this that it's actually 7 to 1 male to female ratio. So again, sorry, that's something very uncomfortable. Can get a bit uncomfortable, I would say. All right. So again, next would be losing personal connects and relationships because most of the times we are in the office or speaking to people who are work related. We are not actually savoring our friendships for real time. Again, hard to find friends with similar travel interests. Yeah, I mean, you might want to take a pilgrimage tour or probably a river rafting, but maybe your peers are not into it. So how would you actually do for it? So these are the problems that we are trying to address. Next, please, Shramana. So what's the solution? So the solution that we came up is not something really, IoT related or, something extra level tech. It's a very simple solution that we are doing women only travel groups. You only pay for yourself. You don't have to pay for a couple. There would be a trip buddy who would ensure the safety, security of the women travelers, and also ensure that anytime during the trip there is anything not going as per the plan or not appropriate, so that can be taken care of then and there. You can rely on us for visas, flights, interim accommodation requirements, transportations. Each trip starts at a particular point. So, for example, if you're going to Ladakh and you want to reach Leh, so we will help you with all the arrangements. All right. So next would be meet and travel with like-minded women from different parts of the world. So it's again we are connecting you with like-minded people, like-minded women, in fact. So you can actually save a friend, these friends again for a lifetime. You could be coming from any background, and these people. You would be surprised to know that you can actually choose to be somebody whom you are not. So they're not bothered about what are the challenges that you actually have in your real life. You can be some anybody that you want to be. Yeah, so that's a solution. Can we move to the next slide, Mitra? Right. Coming to the market validation, there was a survey done by Booking.com which reveals 72% American women have traveled solo every year, and that number keeps on increasing. India is currently fourth on the list, not on the percentage list, but the volume of women traveling. India is the fastest growing market for outbound travelers. China obviously gives us a very good competition, but yeah, our population growth rate actually beats it. So yeah, 12 million fresh passports were issued in 2018. These are official Government of India figures. Solo travel inquiries have increased by 131% as per Google Trends. Working women are the first ones to actually open to this idea of solo traveling. Solo travelers actually have risen by 42% thanks to a lot of portals, a lot of Instagram actually has helped that cause because more and more people actually posting travel pictures. So Instagram actually has refueled this, and Pinterest. I mean, there are innumerable. Photo being one of the latest ones, which actually promotes it. There's a link which I have shared regarding the statistics where I pulled from, in case you would like to go through it. Can we move to the next one, ma'am? All right. One more on the market size. Roughly, there are about 1 billion plus women who are into the which can be categorized under urban population. So these are the women who actually have access to internet, access I mean they're connected. So these would be the target market. But again, we would on the negative side, we would take 14% women across the world who have actually taken a solo trip. That's again a statistic. So we would see that 140 million is our market, which are actually open to this idea. They've actually tried this idea. Can we move on to the next one now? So this is a brief highlight of the product. So our website is wanderwomaniya.com. When you go on this, so you would be able to see that there are already some listed trips that we are actually doing. We are also managing a blog wherein we are we are seeing a good readership which is growing consistently. These blogs are about women, mostly from women. Sometimes it's by me because obviously I do also a lot of research into it. So these again blogs help you to plan your solo trip to go. So again, these are for wellness, safety, security, and travel. Again, targeted at women. Apart from this, apart from safety, security, I think hygiene is one of the major challenges that women have to face in the during traveling. So we have actually plans. We have already tied up with eJoy. That's a small time company which have come up with the stand tea devices, so that you don't actually have to bear the brunt of bad washrooms during your travel. So there are more products that we actually have plans to collaborate with, and these are something that we will offer for both free for our women who actually travel with us, and obviously available for purchase as well. Can we move to the next slide, ma'am? The business model. So we are taking 10% net profit from each of the trips that we do. For example, a trip is worth 50K. So 5K is our net profit that we have been able to manage so far. Obviously, that's we would want to grow that, but yeah, that's something that that's a threshold that we are trying to maintain. So again, 140 million would be the serviceable market that is already there. $72 it comes at about a average net profit per person, and so we are looking to grow at a rate wherein we can actually reach this customer base, so we can actually hit the target of $10 billion revenue projection. Again, it does not take into projection that we have repeat clients, so that's again something that will add on to
I'm
this.
going to stop you for a moment. I know you have other stuff that you want to share, but I want to stay on this slide for a moment and give you some feedback.
Right.
I don't think 140 million is your market, because this is too broad. If you want to build something compelling, you're going to have to narrow down and zero in on a segment where you really specialize, because there are all kinds of segmentation issues within the 140 million. Just because this is women who travel alone doesn't mean that that's all homogeneous. You have budget levels, you have ethnicity levels, you have types of destination, you have age is a huge one. So if you want to be relevant across all of that, there needs to be some expertise. And travel arrangements is complicated. It's not that homogeneous. So
right.
I'm not convinced that, and you're saying $72 is your average net profit per trip across 140 million users. It just doesn't sound credible to me. I'm going to let Shri give you her feedback. I know she has to leave in a few minutes, but let's listen to what she has to say.
Yeah, so Anuj, I understand what you're trying to do here, which is you're trying to show that you have a large total addressable market, and that's one aspect, right, of trying to get investments. But the other aspect is, where are you starting, and how are you truly becoming indispensable for where you start? And I think that's what Shramana is talking about, right? Like, because 140 million, there's, as she said, different age groups, different, the Gen Z is very different from the boomers who may be traveling alone for religious,
Right.
festivals or something like that. So I do think, I think this total, I understand you want to have a large total addressable market, right? But I do think you want to also say, like, here's where we're starting, here's where we're focusing, here's why our target where we're starting is going to love us. Because if you show me that there's deep customer love in a narrow segment and that you understand the adjacent segments, I will believe that you can expand to the adjacent segments. But if, as you said, if you treat the 140 as a big, indistinguishable blob, it becomes harder to make that case.
I totally understand where you're coming from. I think, in fact, we have addressed this to a certain extent because we started actually with the budget trips, which were actually, small treks, weekend treks that we started with, weekend trips to destinations like Himachal and Uttarakhand in India. And slowly and steadily, we actually have managed to actually, do a luxury trip to Turkey, which is a 10-day trip. So we have risen, we started actually from a 5,000 rupee trip, INR 5,000 rupees, and we have actually come across, we have able to achieve a 1 lakh rupee trip without the flights. So while I understand totally what you're saying, and I totally understand that, I totally agree to that. But yes, it's a challenge certainly that you have to cater to all these different segments. They would have simple, obviously age is a big factor. Not everybody would like to, a college girl would not possibly be very much keen to actually share a room with a lady who's 70 years old, right? I totally understand that. But again, there would be different trips targeted for both of them. Possibly a college student would not be much interested in a Gangotri trip, or probably 80-year-old or 70-year-old woman would not be interested in a trek. So I think that is how we are trying to put into segments. So there would be different segments of trips. There would be budget, there would be adventure, there would be luxury, there would be getaways, there would be wellness as well. So there would be trips wherein you would not.
Anuj, that is not the right way to approach this business. It is the wrong strategy. And the reason I say it's the wrong strategy is there is a cost of customer acquisition and there is a cost of community building. So you need to target your customer acquisition budget on a particular segment and create programming, travel experiences for that particular audience and not bounce around from segment to segment. So if you want to do Gangotri pilgrimages, then you should target an age group and a demographic that is interested in religious pilgrimage kinds of trips, and that is the segment that you penetrate through. If your segment is budget travel and treks and hiking and adventure travel, that's a different segment. Your community building should be in that segment, and you should get 1 million users in that segment. Instead of jumping off here, there, and everywhere, you should pick a segment and build that segment fully out.
I understand, ma'am. I understand. But again, there's something that I would like to add here. We are, yes, ma'am. You want to say something, ma'am?
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Anuj. I need to leave, but I wanted to leave silently. But go ahead, Anuj.
Right, ma'am. All right. So again, ma'am, so while I understand that you're saying that, target market has to be defined, but having said that, we are actually targeting women from, again, we are taking a different age, vast age group on this, so that we can actually cater to all of these. And that is one of the reasons that.
What I'm telling you is the wrong strategy. That is what I'm saying. That's what we do here.
Right.
We talk about strategy. I'm telling you that is the wrong strategy. That's my point.
I'll work on it, ma'am.
Telling you as well.
I'll work on it, ma'am.
You will be a lot more successful if the network effect works in your favor.
Right.
If you focus on adventure travel, female adventure travelers, let's say in the 20 to 25 age group.
Right.
That's a very different business and a very different set of experiences that you're going to be putting together, and the network effect of that, the word of mouth effect of that, and the community effect of that is going to be very different than what is going to happen if you're talking about the 70-year-old pilgrimage visitor. That's a very different group. The network effect will be very different. The customer acquisition strategy is going to be very different.
Certainly, ma'am.
And the customer acquisition cost is going to be very different. Everything is going to be different. So, I, strongly advise you to consider what we just told you very seriously, and then, take it from there.
Certainly, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Good luck. It's an interesting idea. I think female solo traveler is a big segment, and but it's not one segment. It's not one flat segment. So you're going to need to, operate, segment by segment within there.
Fair enough, ma'am. Well understood.
All right. We are going to the next presenter, Shalaka Ghosh. Shalaka, please unmute your line and tell us what you're working on. Is Shalaka on the phone? Audio hasn't connected. All right. We'll let you figure that out, and I am going to explain to you how to use 1 million by 1 million, and then we'll take Shalaka's questions after this segment. So if you like what we're doing, as you can see, I have no qualms about contradicting Anuj's strategy. Why is that? Because I want Anuj to succeed, and Shri wants Anuj to succeed. So we are giving our feedback based on our experience of what works. And that is always going to be the culture and ethos of this program, is we will give you honest feedback and not a pat on the back necessarily. If if you're doing something great, we'll say, oh, that's great. Like we said, solo women travelers is an interesting segment, and it's it is a segment that has lots of unique issues. So targeting a travel agency, online travel agency that focuses on that is a very reasonable investment thesis. But you have to figure out how to crack that nut. It is not a 140 million nut. It is many different segments within that 140 million, and you have to figure out what is your strategy to go about tackling that. So that is the format in which we do these. We will give you constructive feedback based on which you can morph your strategy and hopefully find more success and more acceleration. So for resources, go to 1Mby1M.com. There is a free blog that you'll learn a lot from just by following. And within that, the Entrepreneur Journey series is extremely informational and inspirational. The Entrepreneur Journeys book series is built out of the blog. We have 12 books of 12 to 16 case studies each. You can learn there. These roundtables happen every week. This is the 498th session. Over 150,000 people have attended, and you're most welcome to come back as often as you wish to. The full acceleration program from 1 million by 1 million is 1M by 1M Premium. We offer you extensive methodology guidance, a full curriculum, digital curriculum. We help you with business development. We help you with strategy consulting. We help you with financing and media relations. That's a $1,000 annual membership fee program. Go to the self-assessment on our website. It's a free tool that will help you ask the questions of your own business that investors would ask you. Try to answer these questions before you go in front of any investor, okay? If you get stuck and you need methodology training, the 1M by 1M basic curriculum only option, $99 a month, will help you address the methodology gaps. So go dig around on the website. We have everything described in great detail, premium program, basic program, video FAQs, description of the curriculum. The curriculum is a case study-based curriculum. We have over 1,000 successful entrepreneur case studies, and that includes 100 plus unicorns, 400 plus venture funded companies, 400 plus bootstrap companies. You'll learn a lot from them. Our methodology is lean, capital efficient bootstrap startups. You have to validate before investors are willing to write checks. So please don't assume that you can raise money without validation. So bootstrap first, raise money later, or not at all. We also support entrepreneurs who don't raise money and do completely bootstrap businesses. So that's it. These are the upcoming free roundtables. We will have one more in August next week, and then we have 3 in September, and the fall is going to be completely full. And we also do rendezvous online. These are sessions that happen on Tuesday mornings. These are Q&A sessions live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. You can catch me on any of those. I am going to go to Shalaka Ghosh. Are you on the phone, Shalaka? Are you ready to do your pitch?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Hi, good evening. Good evening, Shamana. How are you?
Good. Please go ahead. Tell us what you're working on.
All right. So this started off, I think, during the beginning of this year. So this is something which I started off within the organization that I was working on internally, because we saw that with everything that was going on around Wuhan and China, because we dealt with a Chinese clientele directly. So we started off with an initiative which is called the Bohemian.
Go on. Uh-oh. Shalaka, you may want to turn off your video and just speak on audio, because I think you don't have enough bandwidth to do video from where you're joining from. All right, folks, while she's adjusting her system, let me also open up the line for other people to call in. The phone number is 650-479-3208, access code 127-014-5632. You're very welcome to call in. Just let us know in public chat that you're calling in, okay? And if you have questions about the 1M by1M program, Irina Patterson is your contact, irina@1M1M.com. You have
Hi, I'm
power
so sorry.
cut. Can you still continue?
I'm so sorry. There was a power cut. There was a power cut on my end. That's why I just disconnected. I'm so sorry. So yeah,
Go ahead.
Shamana, yes. So this started off with an internal activity which we would sit around and write stuff, read things, and basically we actually realized over time that we had stopped writing altogether. It was only email writing or just typical to the point conversations which we had, which actually the culture that we had gone through while we were a kid, like 25 years ago. While we were kids, there was totally different culture that was going on. And currently, the culture was totally different. And people were not at all bothered about, how it affects the mental health or how it affects you internally and how the external environment affects you altogether. So, what we started off was in fact, I started this off as a journey wherein people who actually found issues, found problems within the system or outside of the system, they would come up and speak to us. So we had a readers club, a writers club, a duality within the business, inside. So these are the few initiatives that we had. So business, as far as I have seen, has a duality. So over time, like from March and April, we saw a very different approach to business, because of the COVID outbreak, and we started working from home in March. So that is when the Bohemian Rhapsody came into picture. So I had taken a sabbatical after that because this was very intuitively I felt that I needed to get out of that team in which I was working because it was getting a little toxic because a lot of people were now finding out that there is something called as depression. Well, I have been I have been an activist when it comes to mental depression and meditation sessions. I have been going through this entire. So I started collecting data. So when working from started collecting data which said stay safe, stay home, and all of these hashtags that you can see because I was living in the city at the time. So I knew a lot of girls and a lot of people within the company as well. Since we had an employee base of 25,000, so we could actually cater to that. We could actually collect that data. But then a very personal emergency came through, so I had to take a sabbatical. But then still, what the main four pointers, which were the basic pointers, was that tragedy had changed a lot of people because we saw a lot of people, in our immediate family or in my immediate family, for example, who passed away during the COVID phase and during the lockdown itself, and it was getting too much to take on. So what I thought was this is actually the right time to take it up on a larger level because I had always felt very strongly about all these things, and now that a lot of people were actually considering this, that is why Bohemian Rhapsody came into picture. So I am a very big music fanatic, if you can say. I listen to songs, or I have a lyric for every moment in life, kind of thing. So things needed to align. So when the transformation phase was there, I took a sabbatical and I started talking to more and more people who were in my network. Some people living in America, some people living in Australia, some people living in India itself. But it was very difficult to reach out to these people because they were not ready to share their own experiences or their own issues of what they were going through during the pandemic. So I started slowly, step by step, since I have friends in Dubai as well and I have friends in America as well. I started understanding who my audience was. A lot of people, they just do not want to, speak of their mental health issues. So I started off slowly
Alaka,
only with mental health
Alaka,
for now.
I have
Yes,
listened to
so
you for a while. I don't have any clue what is it that you're trying to do. So that's a
yes.
big red flag. I have no idea what you're doing.
Right. So I wanted to. So this is exactly what has happened. That a lot of people did not know what they wanted to do and how they wanted to do it. So I started off with a project management initiative. My first line for it was Teach for India. So I had a lot of. I knew that the younger people, the younger generation, the generation coming after us, and beyond that, needs to be trained for how to survive in the world. So Teach for India was one. Other Your Dost is another initiative which I can program. So basically a project management kind of group is what I wanted to start up.
I suggest you follow what I said earlier in the segment. Go to the self-assessment on the 1 million by 1 million blog and try to answer those
Yes,
questions about your idea and see if you can answer those questions satisfactorily. Because right now your idea is way too nebulous and it's not really formulated yet. And I think that tool is going to give you a structure around which to formulate your idea. And I'm not just Shalaka, I'm going to say this to anybody who's listening to this discussion. If you are in the very early stages of ideation, every business, every venture starts with an idea. So when you are in that ideation phase, go to the self-assessment. It's free. It's available on our website. It's free, and it has a very structured way of looking at ideas and asking the right questions on how to test an idea and how to flesh out an idea. So go through that exercise, please, and I think that would be a much better use of your time. I mean, I can't really understand what you're doing yet, and I don't. The part of the reason I don't is because you don't have it clearly formulated in your head. Okay?
all right. Thank you.
All right. Does anybody else want to talk? Any other questions? Anybody else wants to dial in? Anyone wants to ask questions in the public chat? You're very welcome. I'll pick up questions from the public chat as well. Any comments? Any other kinds of participation? All right. No, I don't see any questions, so we're going to adjourn for today. We'll see you on Tuesday morning at the rendezvous or next Thursday morning at the next roundtable. Please go ahead and register if you would like a slot to pitch, and Maureen will send you instructions. Bye, everybody. Please stay safe and be well.